creating our stuff. So add another class. Make sure it's a header file. Make it easier. If it says source on the bottom, might as well start creating the source first. The source file, the CPP file. So call that a framework, and make sure you drag it to this side. and then this time we'll add the header file, and we can call it framework too. Of course, unless you want to name it something else, which probably won't work at all. So once you have that, we're gonna do the little stuff on top, the if and def. We call it framework underscore age number define framework h, and we can end it. And here we can define something called win32 lean and mean. This will actually set us, set where you're initializing, where you don't need the semicolon, where you're initializing the windows and all that stuff. There's stuff that glue includes that we don't need. This will take out some stuff from our header files from where we're initializing OpenGL and all that stuff, and it's gonna take away some stuff that we're not gonna need, and that'll be better for us because sometimes it creates errors and all that. So make sure you have this, because without it you probably will get some errors. Otherwise, I know I didn't give you guys a good explanation. You can always look it online. You can go to Yahoo, but who goes to Yahoo these days? I don't know. I have Yahoo as my homepage every time I open the internet, but every time I search for something, I always go to Google. So I don't know. Anyways, just create the class for a framework, and we can have the constructor and destructor in here. Function that will initialize our framework. And call it void initialize. Function which will run our updates and render for the framework. So you can call it void run. Make sure you call it run. You spell it right. Seriously. And now for our private stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean, private. We can have a function which will create the OpenGL window. Finally, we can create the OpenGL window. And you're gonna call it bool create OpenGL window. And we can have a sharp pointer which will have the title of the window, the int x and int y, which will be the positions of the window, and the int width and height for the width and height of the window. And then we can have an h instance. Every time I read that, I say instance, but I know it's not that way. So it's h instance, and that's it. That's it for our header files. We're gonna go to the framework. Make sure you include framework. You don't include any other class like we did earlier, or like I did earlier. Not you guys. Not you guys. You guys are great. You guys are great. You guys are great. And we can create our header files. Apologize for the dogs are barking in the background. I don't know. They're weirdos. We're gonna have an include. Do we need those? I'll not put it up there. We're gonna include the constructor and destructor. because this is just awesome. Now what you gonna do? And there's the last thing, you know what? There's one last thing that we have to initialize in our graphics class, and that's we can define if we want full screen or not. Right now I'm gonna set it to false. You don't have to. It doesn't continue. I'm gonna set it to false. You can set it to true if you want, because we can need that inside our framework. So if somehow you want the screen to be full screen, you want the window to be full screen, I don't think it will initialize here, really. Oh, we haven't initialized our graphics, have we? Oh, I see. You know what? We're gonna come back to this because there's another class I forgot to do before we had to create our framework. You know what? Let's just continue writing the classes. You can initialize, and you say if not create window, OpenGL window. We're gonna put a title. You know, I'll be better off because we're gonna need it eventually when we're gonna destroy the window. We're gonna have a. So go back to your header file from the framework and you can say window title or whatever you want to name it, because we're gonna need it anyways. And you could probably call it in the constructor, and you can say call it awesome window. I don't know what you guys want to name it. Call it awesome window. And we can pass it in here, window title. We're gonna pass in the position. We always set it to 0. And then for a window size, we're gonna create some defines for those, which we'll create later. And if we didn't initialize the window right, then we're gonna return. And then eventually we're gonna go to our next function, which will be, nope, I thought we had it saved. We call it a framework, and the run function. And we're gonna have an MSG, a message. We just call it MSG, and we're gonna set the message, initialize the message to be this, maybe the size of MSG, and then we could contain the update loop. Would be the while MSG dot message does not equal WM quit. You say if peak message MSG null 0u, another 0u, which I don't know what they mean, PM remove. We're gonna translate the message, which I have no idea what this does. I apologize, but the main point of my tutorial is not to learn this, what this does, and it's just to create the window. At least with my tutorial, you know. I'm not saying that's not important or anything, so I don't want to offend anybody. And then if it doesn't go in there, then we can update it. This is where our update loop is gonna come in. We haven't created the functions for it yet because I was dumb and I decided to do this class first. You know, I was a step ahead of myself. So this is where we'll update the timer, and then we're gonna have it to run the engine. You'd be like, engine? Yeah, the next class we can create the engine, which should have been the next thing I should have created first. Wait, what am I? Oh. Make sure you have an extra parentheses there because I forgot.